Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and thank you for stopping by. There is a phrase I often hear people say, and I use it to myself as well. The phrase is, there is only one constant in life, and that constant is change. Well, I can go one better actually. I'm thinking of making a new phrase. That new phrase is, there are only two constants in life. Change and Stephen Curry making a three-point shot. Get it? As a matter of fact, today, I'm going to be talking about both of those things. This video is going to talk about how Stephen Curry's three-point shot is changing the way the NBA, not just the NBA, but how basketball across the world is being played. Stephen Curry has the ridiculous ability to pull up off the dribble or catch and shoot the ball from just about anywhere in the state. Once he lets it go, it's almost a 50-50 chance that it's going in. Sometimes we are so caught up in the heat of his shooting that it seems more like 90% than 50-50. Everyone who has watched an NBA game that is alive says that Stephen Curry's ability to shoot the ball has never been seen before. Some people even go as far to say that Stephen Curry's ability to shoot the ball will never be seen again after he finishes playing. That is, unless he forces his children to follow in his footsteps. What do you guys think? If your father was Steph Curry, wait. I know you think you know what my question is going to be, but hear me out first. It's not as easily done as said. So the question is, if Steph Curry was your father, do you think you would follow in his footsteps with that destructive shooting gene? Would you want to play basketball and try to follow or even be better than what your great father did before you? Now this is where I want you to think about this. There are many great NBA players whose children tried to follow in their footsteps but fell short considerably. Stephen Curry is the greatest shooter in the history of basketball. So would you want to be a child trying to follow in those footsteps? Now let me jump back over to the main topic while you think carefully about your answer. Now where was I? Oh yeah, will we ever see another shooter as good as Stephen Curry? The truth is we don't know. Stephen Curry's ability to knock down shots so frequently from so many different areas of the basketball court has changed not only the way players play defense against him, but more so how players try to mold their offensive game to match or mirror some of his skills, and how some teams try to build around shooters the way Golden State did. Let's look at these things individually. The way the game is played on the defensive end of the floor is now geared more towards locking down perimeter threats than it was in the past. Yes, back in the day, not too long ago, there were some pretty good shooters out there, such as Reggie Miller, Ray Allen, Mike Bibby, Mike Miller, Jason Terry, Larry Bird, and the list goes on and on. But these guys weren't as many as they are today. I mean, there weren't such a plethora of shooters in the NBA all at once in the past as there are in the NBA now. Teams are actively scouting for the 3 and D guys internationally and from the NCAA to add to their roster. Because of this, teams now need to incorporate more perimeter defensive tactics in their playbook. Yeah, you may have a few teams out there with Giannis Antetokounmpo and Ben Simmons that don't shoot as much from the outside of the paint, but these guys are one-offs and in most cases are quite easy to deal with when the playoffs come around. Just ask the Miami Heat. Teams are having the bulk of their trouble with perimeter threats such as Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, Damian Lillard, and just about every other shooting guard in the NBA. Yes, I know that not every other shooting guard can shoot, but you get the picture. Most of them can. This is a big problem for almost every team on any given night. The issue in large part is because of Stephen Curry. Stephen Curry is now inspiring a lot of shooters to take what would have been previously called a bad or ill-advised shot. Steph Curry really has revolutionized the game in this way, and because of this offensive revolution, a defensive resolution has to counteract. The next aspect of how Stephen Curry has perhaps single-handedly inspired change in the NBA is the way that teams scout for players. Or maybe I should say the players that are being scouted for. In the past, having a point guard that can handle the ball and getting a few bigs that are really good at rebounding and finishing around the rim would be the focal point of a lot of scouting departments. These days, this just doesn't fly. Teams are actively scouting for players across the world who can consistently make a three-point shot and defend the perimeter as well. They call these guys 3 and D. Think about it. There were no other eras in basketball where the term 3 and D was remotely popular. Ever since Steph Curry came around with his ridiculous shooting escapades, 3-and-D became a thing because coaches and team managers realized the benefits of having players that can knock down three-point shots and also defend the opposing team's shooters or best players. I'm not saying Steph Curry is the only player that is forcing the 3-and-D mentality into team management, but he definitely is one of the early pioneers behind it. Having three-point shooters that can shoot the ball and defend the perimeter is one thing, but another change that Stephen Curry inspired is the change in the center position. This one has not completely taken over the NBA yet, but teams are actively searching for players that can fit into what we now call the small ball lineup. A small ball lineup is a lineup in which teams use smaller, fast players to outpace and outscore their opponents, usually with screens, cuts, and outside shooting, especially when the opponents have bigger and slower players on the court. Small ball lineups are very effective if the opposing team does not have a quality big man that can punish the small defenders on offense. Stephen Curry, along with Klay Thompson and Draymond Green, were the first to successfully play this small ball lineup and win a championship. So Stephen Curry, along with the help of his teammates, pioneered the use of the small ball lineup in a successful way. Without a doubt, I can definitely look at the way the NBA and basketball around the world is played today and say that small ball is becoming more popular. And that is definitely thanks in part to Stephen Curry. Stephen Curry is also changing the way the game is played and how players train. In the past, players would definitely practice to take three-point shots, but I guarantee you that they wouldn't be practicing how to make deep three-point shots all the way from half court. And yes, for sure, they are practicing how to do that now. Players are actively trying to increase their three-point shooting percentage because of what the value of the three ball now has in the NBA. It is no secret that since Stephen Curry's arrival in the NBA, the amount of threes taken per team in the NBA has significantly increased. This is no coincidence. This is definitely because of Stephen Curry's impact on games from behind the three-point line. Imagine that you were comfortably making your mid-range jumpers, free throws, and layups, throwing the occasional dunk, then all of a sudden this guy comes into the league and all he does is shoot threes. I'm not saying that is all that Stephen Curry does, but let's look at it from a player's perspective. Pretty soon he's making 3 of these deep threes per game, and over time they begin to add up. All of a sudden your coach starts insisting that players improve their three-point shooting and range. That right there would be change happening right before your eyes. Remember when you used to play junior league basketball and you would try to make a three-point jump shot? If you made it, you would take one step backwards and then do it again. Remember when your coach would immediately jump off the bench, run up to you screaming like a madman and scream, "That's a bad shot. That's a bad shot. If I ever see you do that again, you'll be running until the cows come home." Whatever that means, coach. Joke's on you. I ain't got no cows. This is something that happened all over the world and not just in the NBA. But now the times for basketball are changing where no shot is being considered a bad shot as long as you can make it consistently. And who did that? You guessed it, Stephen Curry. Players are now being encouraged to take shots from in the parking lot if they can make it. We see guys like Damian Lillard, and please don't jump on me for saying his name because I'm not saying he is trying to be Steph Curry. I'm just saying we see players like Damian Lillard taking these shots and nobody would say that's a bad shot. Well, unless you were Paul George or Playoff P, or I should say George Paul. If you are, hey Paul George, give us a shout out, man. Thanks for stopping by. I hope you get the message that I'm trying to bring across. Before Stephen Curry, shooting the ball from certain places was discouraged by coaches. But since Stephen Curry's arrival in the NBA, horse shots are now more encouraged than ever before.